What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and welcome to episode 111 as crossover week rages on the HHH Racing Podcast. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys all for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. What's crossover week, you might ask? Well, yesterday on Pacific Horseplayers, their new night, Tuesday, at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Noah was joined by Pete Visco and Patrick Kunsel. Patrick Kunsel, of course, of right here on Bettin and Boozin, Pete Visco of Picks and Ponies. But look who they put on the same show, ladies and gentlemen. It's myself and Ryan Anderson of Pacific Horseplayers. We're going to come live to you guys talking about the Fairgrounds early PICK5 on Saturday, including two stakes, which should be very good. It's a very fun opening sequence. It's a little rough, I'm not going to lie, but it is fun nonetheless, and hopefully us two can provide a little bit of entertainment for you guys to lack up for the amount of stakes in this sequence. As you see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now, please go down below the video player here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate it because not only is it the best and easiest way to help out the channel completely free, but it pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. As I mentioned before, you see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now, Pacific Horseplayers, formerly on Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is now going to move to Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, getting their own primetime slot on their own day. Should help a little bit, and hopefully you guys can make it to that show. My light is going absolutely nuts. I don't know what's going on in the background. I might have to go give it a whack while Ryan talks about a horse, but either way, I apologize for that in the background. But as I mentioned, Pacific Horseplayers now Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, or 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Picks and this show, of course, 8 p.m. Eastern, and Picks and Ponies on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully you guys can make it to all the new shows with a little bit easier schedule, and we'll go right into it, guys. We won't waste too much time. Of course, bettinandboozin@gmail.com is my email. Please email me with any questions, comments, concerns, or what you want to see on this show. I, of course, read everyone and would greatly appreciate your input. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchors, where not only every single episode of Bettin and Boozin is posted in audio form, every single episode posted to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel is posted in audio form on those three. So please go rate, review, and subscribe over to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. New socials are still going strong at Bettin and Boozin Podcast. I post schedule. I post recap best bets of each show. And if someone hits something good, I'll post a recap of that bet with the horse footage necessary. So please go follow us over there. Also going to start doing a little bit of short form content, especially getting into the road to the Kentucky Derby with Derby Prep previews and stuff like that. So please go follow us over at Bettin and Boozin Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. The Power Picks, guys, still going very, very strong. $2.12 all-time ROI since February of 2021. That's 736 total picks in almost 4 years now, which is absolutely insane to say. That's done all through Patreon. You'll get something emailed to you, or your tip sheet emailed to you every single Saturday, including price plays, spot plays, PICK5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. We here at the HHH Racing Podcast have you covered with the Power Picks. That link is also in the description below. And if you want to view previous editions of those Power Picks before you buy them, or just want to learn more about the podcast, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com. Guys, let's get right into it here, as they happen to put the two drunkest people on Bettin and Boozin on a Wednesday night, which is always a good recipe for some entertainment. So please, I will love to welcome on for the second time now on Bettin and Boozin, fellow young gun myself, intern at Del Mar over the summer in Santa Anita, Ryan Anderson. And look at that, baby. We're already going. Ryan, what's going on, my friend?
What is going on, Kyle? Love to be on Bettin and Boozin today. It's a show that fits me great. Obviously, Noah killed it over on Pacific Horseplayers as per usual, but I get to bring the booze over to Bettin and Boozin this week, so I'm excited about it. If you see a big smile on my face, that's because me and this guy in the comments, Jackson Muniz, just smashed the early pick 4 at Turfway Park. Me, Jackson, and Noah alive in the late pick 5 on a little group ticket. So we're just having some fun out at old Turf Prey Park. If you
I was gonna say, about right on that one is Turf Prey Park, especially for me, guys. If you guys know anything about me, I won't touch that track with a 20-foot pole. I guess if the group tickets, and I wasn't invited, so that might be a knock already against you 5 minutes into the show.
Well, I check your text messages.
Oh, God. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we're in the bid. That's all that matters. But Ryan, thanks so much, man, for hopping on again. Crossover week is a ton of fun. Where like I said, picks and ponies, Pacific Horseplayers, Bettin and Boozin all get to swap co-hosts for the week and get to have a fun show on this. And unfortunately, I said this already, we got a little bit of a rough handout here on Bettin and Boozin with the sequence. Blame the boss on that one. However, we're gonna still have some fun with it. The Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale does make a return to the podcast. Brewed in Lexington, by the way. My beautiful wife Emma's second favorite place next to Disney World. So Lexington, Kentucky, that is. So it's a fantastic beer. If you have a chance to get your hands on it, would highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of bourbon and beer, which I know a lot of you people are out there from Kentucky. So please give that a chance if you can. And also, we got a little bit of the nectar of the gods sitting right next to me as well. So pop that open, everybody. If you got something next to you, cheers to everybody out there. Let's get this early pick 5 at Fairgrounds on Saturday rolling. Katie, of course, is here. Betting Fairgrounds as we are. Paul Conlon, I will not be mentioning that. Absolutely not. Don't worry about it. Michael Austin, I get it. Really not a fan of this card. Try to get excited. There's a lot of older horses that are coming back into this card. Look, it's great money and it's great for these horses. However, I can see how you can go with that, Michael. However, never mind. I was referring to Gulfstream. Funny enough, that works. It works. Yeah, it works both ways, Michael. It really does. However, there's some really nice and competitive stakes races on this card. So I take back that comment. It's directed at Gulfstream Saturday card. 2 weeks in a row of Gulfstream, Michael. However, not a third week. I can keep him. That's fantastic, Noah. Thanks so much for joining the show. And he's already stomping on you, Ryan. Again, we're 8 minutes into this, but again, we'll just drink our problems away, I guess. That's the way it goes around here. Anyway, let's get right into it, guys. The early pick 5, of course, on Saturday starts in race number 1, as you guys can probably imagine. It's a 6 furlong allowance on the dirt, $59,000 up for grabs, and the purse draws a field of 9 as I bring up the Equibase right now. And we finally, after all this covering of Gulfstream, we finally have numbers in the PPs and morning lines to check with you guys. So hallelujah, the crowd goes wild. Everyone that can't read, going through the horses, we will do our best. Number 3, Alvarado Cat is your morning line favorite for Charlie McMahon and Brett Calhoun at 3-1. Second choice, number 7, Yaki's Drive Through. Jareth Loveberry takes the mount at 4-1. That's third choice at 4-1. Second choice is number 2, Louisiana Wild Wife for Bet Mitch, Get Rich, Mitchell Murrow, and Shane Wilson at 7-2. And that's who I am going with here. Ryan's going a little bit off the board here with the number 8. We're both going with horses on top, which neither one of us has anywhere, respectfully. So this will be a very good start to kick off. A lot of good discussion to kick off the late pick 5s. That seems sometime on Bettin and Boozin we can continuously talk about the same horses. Ryan, started off. What'd you like most about the number 8? Starry Eyed at a nice price of 6-1.
Yeah, nice price to kick us off here. Obviously, the meet is still pretty early on, so I'm ignoring all the trainer stats. The trainer's 0 for 7 so far, but that means nothing to me. We're going state-bred Louisiana breds here in this allowance race. Had some speed first off the layoff, but you can see on the left-hand side the circle with the C. That race really favored closers. They were kind of flying in there, and it definitely played against the track profile, which normally plays all speed at Fairgrounds. But I like this one second off the bench here. Going to get a chance to, stretch that speed out. You see, he kind of showed speed and faded in that one. He showed speed and faded in the debut and then was put on the bench again. So I'm just betting that now, second time off the bench, he's going to be speed. He's up to the outside, which is where you want to be. Should just get a clear trip around there. And I think he's good enough on his best day. And at 6-1, that's a nice price for me.
Yeah, I mean, 72 back at Louisiana Downs in May is definitely good enough in a field like this. Not to mention, you mentioned that layoff from December 31st all the way till May, and he still showed speed at 5.5. So definitely will be able to show speed first, and I'll show the time for him right now. They have 3 different horses actually vying for the lead. However, the 8 does have the clear edge in terms of time, form, pace scenario. The number 2, Louisiana Wildlife, the horse I like, just to the inside. And the number 3, Alvarado Cat, is not slow as well, according to time form. However, the 8 should be the fastest out of the bunch, I would assume. And if this track can play to speed, I think that definitely favors number 8, Starry Eyed. However, I'm just and I took it the other way, Ryan, even though he's working very, very well. It's like, the horse runs, then goes off, then runs, and then runs again, then goes off. It's like, where does this horse go? Obviously, running in the state bred Louisiana races, you can imagine, going, taking off from the end of Fairgrounds, now coming back just for the start of Fairgrounds. However, obviously Louisiana Downs runs, Evangeline Downs runs. So just really, for me, it was a little bit weird on this horse's schedule, really. And working wise, this horse has had to work on November 4th, 15th, and then all the way to December 13th. So I'm just it's a weird campaign, Ryan, at least to me. Mm-hmm. And again, you get to these type of lower level horses and they can kind of have those weird campaigns. It's not necessarily like a stakes horse that's, working steadily every week. There's, different trainers do different things. Do you take that into consideration at all, Ryan, when you're looking at a race like this? Or is it kind of just, like I said, trainers have their own way of doing things?
Yeah, obviously the work pattern, having that race late November, so only the one work between, but you like to see that the work was pretty sharp, all things considered, for the company. And then it has some common opponents in this race. You have the 7, which I'm sure we'll talk about here, but that one closed from pretty far out of it. You see, looks like off the top of my head, 6 runners coming back, not including Starry Eyed, 7 if you include him. Correct. So pretty common race here. I'm going a little bit, kind of sticking with that form a little, but I think just kind of showing that form is going to stick with the speed on that work since the first time off the bench start, should come back. Hopefully this race sets up nicely for him. I did a little bit of research and bet Fairgrounds on Monday, certainly not because I was a degenerate looking to bet somewhere. I was definitely doing research for this show.
Absolutely.
So the track was playing a lot more towards speed there, as the dirt normally does, but they heated it up that last time out on looks like the 28th, if my eyes don't fail me. But I'm looking second time off the bench. Just should be right.
Yeah. Spot. Yeah. And hey, we're not too far into that show, Ryan. So your eyes are already failing you in this. It's going to be a fun show. I'll tell you that much. However, I think, like you said, 8 horses are coming back from this one. A lot of them did close. However, you'd imagine that the race pace would kind of be sort of the same, if not maybe a little quicker. However, if the 8 does get in front, the number 2, Louisiana Wildlife, who I like, comes out of a maiden race at Fairgrounds on the 28th. As we just talked about a race on the 28th. However, obviously out of the main race, first time facing winners for this son of Star Guitar. Shane Wilson, this is his track. This is his meat to attack. Not the best going so far. 5 for 62, just 8% on the win end, and just about 30% in the money. So not the best start, definitely not the start that Shane Wilson wants to his hometown meet. However, Mitch Merle gets aboard here for this one, who won last time. That main race, they had a one that was absolutely sprinted out there, and unfortunately we can't show replays because Churchill. But like I said, Louisiana Wildlife was 10 back early, just got, like I said, kind of that stalking trip behind the leader in Aztec Gem, who finished last in this race, but was out there by 7 lengths at one point to start it off with. Midwest Arlington legend Olaf Hernandez aboard. Always got to mention him when you see him. But if Louisiana Wildlife, my thinking at least, is if he can get a nice stalking trip, kind of like that last race, not obviously 10 lengths back, but consider a nice 2-length back type of trip. If the 8, who's had a tendency of fading back late at the end of races, especially off that last one, granted they did go quick, but if that horse might just not have the finishing punch that a lot of others do, I just think the 2 can get a really nice trip in this race. And even though even he might not even be the best horse, but coming out of it might trip out, plus gets the 67 buyer off debut. The main angle, obviously, with that is second time out. The horse can get the biggest jump in buyers you can see is that second time out, generally speaking, of course. So if he ran 67 on debut, mid 70s, high 70s is definitely not that big of an ask for a second time out horse. And if he does that, that's definitely good enough to win this race. But So again, 7-2, a little bit worse price than the 8-1. I think I would need at least that to play this horse at all in a vertical race. This race is just very wide open. Obviously, morning line favorite of 3-1. Ryan, you and I both have the 3-1 morning line favorite in there somewhere. I have him third. You have him second. It's been a pretty tough, pretty hard campaign so far in the 3-year-old year. This is going to be his 8th race. Alvarado Cat. Brett Calhoun comes into this 2 for 38 on the meet. So again, not the best start for him but he's obviously still winning 20% on the year. A very nice year going on for Brett Calhoun. Hopefully he can finish it off strong here. Alvarado Cat makes a ton of sense. Just kind of one we know, for me at least, was one that didn't have too much upside. It's kind of like we know what this horse can do.
Yeah, we know this horse. And just on the trainer stats, this is one of the meets where I don't really care if a trainer has those low percentages. Nobody's aiming for this like December at fairgrounds. I pay attention if it's Bill Mott going 1 for 70 after Saratoga or
Right.
Mike Maker, that lapse is going to happen. But something like this, you see Brett Calhoun still 20% on the year, so we're fine. Alvarado Cat, in my opinion, is the one that you want out of that last race. He stayed up on that pace that clearly favored closers. That race kind of fell apart. When you look at it, you see the winner came from 10th and the second place came from 11th. And then, fourth place is from 7th. So that thing really just fell apart. Garfish also definitely deserves a shout being up on the pace there. I didn't have that one, but Alvarado Cat, to me, we know what this horse is. We know how he runs. We know what he's going to do. I'm a little skeptical on if he wants to pass horses. I just think maybe this one is going to have some pace and this one's just going to fall apart into his lap. He's a hard trying horse, gives you his best every time, outside of the debut, which was on turf. So draw a line through it. He's a mid 60s guy. He has the ability to get to 70. I don't know that it's going to take much more than a 70 buyer to win here. And this one might just kind of set up nicely for him. I know him and McMahon don't hit at a huge percentage here, looking at 3%. But again, I think he's the one you want out of that common race, in addition to my top pick with the outside speed. But Alvarado's Cat makes a lot of sense in here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But you mentioned it, there's not too much up from here. The 70 might be good enough to win this race. However, it wouldn't be a horse, especially not on the favoritism end, that I would want to back at least vertically for me. 3-1's obviously not that bad of a price, but it might just not be the one that I want. And for me, I didn't see any way. Yeah, you're right. I saw exactly what you thought. This horse doesn't really want to pass horses that much. And I didn't see any other way except for this horse to go. And if this horse goes with the 8, that's why I ended up with the 2. And so hopefully, obviously, that happens for my sake, not for Ryan's sake. But the 3 Alvarado Cat makes a ton of sense, at least for us underneath in your exactas and trifectas. Real quick, touch on a couple that before we go. Number 5, give me a second, who Ryan has in third. Real quick, I'll talk about Yaki's drive-through. I already mentioned it a little bit. This one's going to be closing from deep. Didn't think there was enough pace for this horse necessarily to win. However, which his last race came in winning in a fast pace with on 46-1 for 7 furlongs, which is pretty quick for Evangeline Downs, especially in the slop. Came back to 6 furlongs, closed like a train last time, as we talked about, at 33-1. Just didn't get there. I think this horse might have enough to close in for second or third. Probably not on the win end, though, especially at third choice at 4-1. No, Ryan, you're going with give me a second. 6-1 morning line again. So a little bit of price shopping in this one. However, this horse had a very nice debut.
Yeah, the debut is what I look to here. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line through that last one. I don't know what happened, but I'm willing to overlook it here. Give me a second off that first effort. Just obviously was a wow effort, getting a 75 against State Bred at Evangeline Downs. The buyer speed figure looks to hold up pretty reasonably, looked to be pretty naturally quick, and then for whatever reason, just off the bench, didn't quite fire a good shot. Only has the one work since, again, came out of that same race as most of these here, is give me a second. So I'm hoping second off the bench, just this horse wakes up a little bit. This horse kind of has some more finish to him. I think this horse has some talent. Again, I'm not sure how much we're state bred allowance conditional races right now, but I think this one has some ability. Clearly flashed it on the debut, so maybe we get lucky here.
No, I actually really like that, especially horizontally. If you're playing this race as a type of spread, I think number five. Give me a second. It's 6-1 makes a ton of sense. You mentioned on debut ran super well, then came back last time off of a 6-month layoff, ran nowhere. Now you'd assume that he's a little bit more fit, a little bit more ready. Second time off the bench here for Sturgis DuQuoin, who's actually a pretty nice trainer. He's a little bit smaller barn, but runs very well at these Louisiana meets. So definitely the 5, I think, would be an addition if you're playing a horizontal ticket and you don't want to take a stand with someone like, the 8 or the 2 or something like that. So 5 would be a definite must use for me, at least in a horizontal aspect. I'm going 2-7-3. Ryan's going 8-3-5 to kick off the early pick 5 at Fairgrounds on Saturday. I almost said late out of habit. I did not, so we'll take it for what it is. Paul Collins, sharpen your pencil for Turfway. I will not be doing that, but I am very happy that Shards is running on Friday at and an allowance optional at Turfway Park. Obviously, he is Florida bred, so unfortunately we don't get the breeder money, but still lots of money to be had there. Hopefully he runs very well. Really first time in his 3-year-old year, I guess. I mean, he ran like twice earlier in the year, didn't do too much. Now got a break to go on the farm, mature a little bit. Now comes back here. I'm hoping for a really nice debut off the layoff. However, if he doesn't, of course, we'll have second off the layoff to look forward to. So yes, Katie, he has been found. Paul Conlon does like the 8 a lot, so obviously shout out to him as well. And the weather, Paul, looks fantastic all week. For once in Louisiana, when we cover it, it's not downpouring. So that is always fantastic.
And they remembered how to grow grass for this season.
Yes,
put Roundup on the whole grass turf course. So
of course, yes. And they walk on the outside of the turf course and it's just dirt. It's basically what did Paul call it? Durf. And when Gulfstream had that meet, when they ran on it all the time and just tore it up. Yeah, it was where the Durf meets the Durf, I think is what he said also for that Churchill.
That's the line I used over at Del Mar the closing weekend as they kind of ran that turf into the ground. I was like, oh, right where the Durf meets the Durf.
Absolutely.
Or the Durf meets the surf, excuse me.
Durf meets the surf, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't say that in Kentucky. You can say that definitely out at Del Mar. Guys, let's move on to race number 2 here. And this is another allowance race going a mile for Louisiana breds. It's a field of 9. And this one is probably, I would say, my weakest pick on the day, I'd think. The morning line favorite is the number 8, Undercover Girl. That's who I ended up going with. I'm a little upset myself about it, to be honest. I think it's kind of more of a default pick. You are going with the number 2, Broadway Pearl, who I have in second and think is definitely live. We have the same top 3. We both have the number 3, Front and Silver, your second choice on the morning line at 3-1. In third, Broadway Pearl is your third choice at 4-1. Ryan, I'll let you go first, of course, as always. Going with that third choice, Broadway Pearl, who honestly makes a ton of sense in here off that last race where there's nowhere about it. She ran huge.
Yeah, she ran huge last time, and Sabra Tough is a great runner. She runs an open company. I said she, and I was correct. I was preparing to take a drink there for a second. Obviously,
I got a drink, man.
They went 25-49. They didn't go super fast, but I like second off this brief freshening here. This one does some of her best running on the dirt and clearly showed a different dimension going long, as that was a career buyer top. So I want to take this one coming right back for Alfonso Balderas, who's having a great start to the meet. Again, I know we just talked about the trainer angles and how I don't pay attention to them, but you still got to ride the hot hands. So if somebody's cold, then obviously you can kind of look one way or another. But if somebody's riding hot, it's tough to look away, especially with a horse like Broadway Pearl, who fits, gets a good post draw, and figures to be pretty well placed as they go around there, and only lost by the nose last time out to a good runner in Sabra Tough.
Yeah, look, I completely respect and I really like the pick. It's a matter of, Balderas has had a very nice start to this Fairgrounds meet out of a smaller barn, especially. However, a couple of things I couldn't look past and couldn't place this horse on top. One, where in the hell did that come from? Where's that 73, man? Where did that come from? And she's 2 for 23 lifetime, over 3 at Fairgrounds. So a couple of things that Not necessarily. It's not necessarily like, oh, at 2 for 23, she can't win at all now. It's just one thing. And last time she was 37-1. It's just one. I don't ever like to trust a horse, especially off one race. And if this horse is now going to go from 37-1 now to 4-1, 7-2, I want to at least try and find a different horse. Although I did end up going with the morning line favorite, so that is completely out the window on that logic. But trying to find other places where until she can prove it to me again that she really is this real deal of a horse, I will gravitate other places. However, I will say, Ryan, that her best runs have come on, going around that routing, longer sprint type of distances. You can see, you go back through, she has a lot of races at 5.5 and 6 that she really didn't run well. Then the 7th in June at Louisiana, 7 furlongs at June at Louisiana Downs, runs third, comes back in the claiming event, state bred, going a mile. I get it's off the turf, but still routing on the dirt, runs very well, and then comes back to routing on the dirt and runs well again. So maybe finally putting it together here. It's just a matter of, can she replicate that type of mid-70s buyer, which I think will be needed, or somewhere around the low to mid-70s to win this race. I went with the number 8 here, Undercover Girl. And again, as I mentioned, I kind of defaulted to this horse. Like I said, I had the 2 on top originally, found a few, holes, I guess you could say, ended up going a different place. And this is kind of a really soft pick. I would I won't sugarcoat it for you people. I'll tell you exactly the way it is. It's pretty soft. Jose Ortiz is absolutely mopping up races down there. 35%, 27 for 77. I think Howard jokingly said to me the other day, he was like, yeah, the Ortiz brothers, one's going to Gulfstream, one's going to New Orleans, and they're both performing a class on how to ride these horses. They've both been riding absolutely fantastic. Picks up this one for Asmussen, who's over 50% in the money, 25% on the win end here. Brandon ran a very similar race last time out at Fairgrounds at 3-5, and really just was awful. Really, there's no two ways to go about it. The thing is, in this race, this is another one. There's really no speed in here at all. You can see actually Timeform has it as favoring front runners here between the 8 and the 5. They actually have the 8 on the lead. And I mean, the 8 hasn't been on the lead once in her career. So I like the 3-year-old angle, off of it, second off of a 3 month layoff coming into this spot, picks up Jose Ortiz. Asmussen's the best they come with this type of move. So hopefully she can run well here and doesn't make me look like a complete idiot. I would not play this horse vertically, especially this horse will go off favored, will not touch this race vertically at all. And I would have to cover myself if I was playing horizontal. This race just has so many different question marks in this race. And you look at the number 5, Mo Smokin', this horse will most likely be on the lead. But if the 8 gets a nice pressing trip just off of this 5, again, as I mentioned last race, might just trip out in this spot. Ryan, obviously you think this horse has a good chance, have the horse in second, and then feel free to go into the 3 once you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, for the 8 Undercover Girl, fade Jose at your own peril.
Yep,
pretty much. I mean, what do you? There's not much more to it than that in a race like this. It projected to sit right off the hip of the 5, just go around there, out of Nyquist, which in my opinion is probably the best breeding in this field. I mean, the number 3 to go to Front and Silver, by Justin Jeansum and Deshaun Parker on board out of Coal Front, who is a decent sire. However, he's primarily better with sprinters, and this one has been sprinting most of his career, except for last year when he was or earlier this year rather, when he was back with Justin's Barn. I had a couple route efforts, but gets back to it here off of a couple good buyer efforts, going 7 furlongs for Delta Downs. Last one coming in the slop and finishing second. This one has 2 in the money out of 3 efforts at Fairgrounds, so I don't hate to see that.
Yep.
Again, just my top 2 picks are my pretty heavy leans. I'm not super confident in the number 3 Front and Silver, just because the breeding doesn't scream that he's going to love to go 2 turns. Coal Fronts typically are not great routing on dirt. However, this race might just kind of fall into this one's hands. He can sit just from off the pace, so might just sit the right little trip. You can see dirt route 12%, which is actually a lot better than the last time I checked for Coal Front. So good on him for improving.
I mean, you look at the difference in starts, Noah. I mean, Noah, I keep calling. Why do I? I'll drink for that. Fucking.
Yeah, you should. That's worse than calling
I
a
was gonna
horse
say,
Ron
yeah,
Benton.
that is
Calling
true.
me Noah. That's
I'll take
wild,
2
man.
drinks for that. That's fine. God, that's bad. I apologize. Either way, but you mentioned better at sprinting than routing, even though 17% versus 12%, you're talking about 250 starters versus only 49 starters for routing. So, even though the percentages are kind of evening out, as you mentioned, obviously trainers feel one way versus the other when it comes to cold front progeny.
Exactly. And it's no surprise that he's been better at sprinting, as that was what he was most successful at. So, yeah, front and silver is my third pick, but kind of just a suck up third pick is I'm primarily 2-8 here if I were to go, if I were to play the horizontal, which knowing me, I probably will.
Yeah.
Of course. And just to address the comment real quick, yeah, I didn't have that 37-1 shot at Turfway, so I'm sorry.
Man.
I didn't have the horse beaten 45 lengths to go ahead and wire the field. So that's on
Turfway.
me. Yeah, Turfway, baby.
Yeah, we love Turfway. I love it around here, dude. I'll talk about it all day. God, I fucking hate it. Anyway, yes, Noah, you do look at that alike. It's kind of, it gets in my head. It kind of mixes up a little bit. So I'm sorry, Ryan.
I certainly
honestly, that's even worse. I could have called you anyone else. I had to call you Noah. That's honestly the worst part, just in general. Let alone me just calling you a wrong name. So I had to call you Noah. So that makes it even worse. But Ryan's going 2-8-3. I'm going 8-2-3 in the second contest on Saturday at Fairgrounds. Guys, let's move on to race number 3, and this is a mile effort. However, going on the turf finally. It draws a field of 12 with 4 also eligibles. Again, another allowance, 59,000, with the morning line favorite being a pretty soft one at that. Number 10, my boy Tony, Luis Saez, comes in for Eddie Keneally at 7-2. Second choice, the number 3, Sandpipes, Jose Ortiz, Lindsey Schultz at 9-2. And your third choice is the number 1, American Home, with Florent Giroux and Brad Cox at 6-1. And Ryan, I like it, my friend. I was this close to picking that horse on top, and I have good reason for it. I'm sure you do as well, going with the third choice, the number 1, American Hope. And again, going with the Cox runner nowadays, especially this time of the year, is definitely not a bad shout.
Look, there's a high percentage chance that I get Florent just screwed here, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one. Coming out of the D'Amato barn, this is a horse I'm really familiar with, having raced his 4 previous races out on the West Coast. Was stakes, had a stakes try, lost to Lord Bullington, who was a really high, kind of high touted horse at the time during his 2-year-old year. And then obviously just something either went wrong or just kind of went to the bench. Looks like a private purchase, because I know D'Amato doesn't run too many for Gary and Mary West. Shows up here in this spot for Brad Cox. Reasonable spot, right? Like, the placing is not aggressive. He's not showing up in a stakes race. He's showing up here in an allowance. Same condition pretty much as what he left off at. Gets a nice post draw. Again, I don't love betting Florent Giroux. However, the rail draw is nice. Brad Cox is going to have him ready. Brad has been on an absolute tear. Just anywhere you bet him, his horses seem to be running. So, I mean, American Hope is certainly going to be my hope coming in here. Should just kind of set a nice pocket trip around there. I can't imagine a scenario. I mean, I can imagine many scenarios, but I try to not imagine a scenario where Giroux is going to screw this one up. So I'm hoping he just sits a nice little trip. The pace comes back, and this one's able to pounce at the top of the lane. And 6-1 on a Brad Cox runner. I mean, all day, every day, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're talking about this, right?
Yes, that is precisely what I'm referencing. So I'm happy you pulled that up. Obviously, as the creator of that meme.
Yeah, I love it, dude. It's so funny. But either way, I agree. Obviously, in general, but this horse actually, by American Pharoah, out of room service, out of a more than ready mare, this horse should be more than, wow, no pun intended, should be more than ready for the turf. You look at room service. Room service is a very nice horse in her own right, winning the Here Comes the Bride and the Ashland by 7. Obviously, when the Ashland was on synthetic at Keeneland, before they switched back to the dirt track, won the American Oaks at Santa Anita, a grade 1 winner on the turf for Wayne Catalano. The Catman, also Arlington and Midwest legend, this horse is a half to Growth Capital, who unfortunately, while didn't win, had 4 seconds out of the Chad Brown barn in 2022. Obviously highlighted by Kentucky Downs, Keeneland, Belmont, and Saratoga. So definitely one that has the ability to put runners on the turf. And if you go and Brad Cox off of a trainer switch and 180-day layoff, let's just do it just to show you guys. It's 25% off of a trainer switch and 180-day layoff, which is actually, excuse me, it's 29%. My apologies. He wins at 26% normally, 15 for 51. First time getting the horse off of 180-day plus layoff entered first. That's ridiculous. Like, there's no other way to put it. This was out of Phil D'Amato's barn as well, running at some pretty nice West Coast horses. Honestly, Lord Bullingdon's a nice one out there. You look at this main special weight out of Del Mar, every single horse either improved buyer, basically stayed steady on the buyer. So that race held together. Obviously didn't run the best in the Eddie Logan. However, again, behind nice horses and was well bet too at 2.5 to 1. Then comes back on the dirt, losing to May Moon and Imagination. So, I mean, this off the bench, great stats. Probably won't get 6 to 1 just because, Brad Cox and all that stuff. But should be primed and takes the blinkers off of that last race where honestly was his worst defeat by lengths. So lots of upside for this horse. Just a matter of is he ready off the bench? So Ryan, completely respect you for taking that horse. I am going to use him later in my best bets. Sandpipes number 3, guys, is a horse for Lindsay Schultz. This will be third time out of the same barn. She usually does very well at this fairgrounds meet as well. Obviously not the best start, 0 for 8. However, gets Jose Ortiz aboard here, which, again, no disrespect to Michael Sanchez and Fernando Jara. Rider upgrade here, plus coming back from a little bit of hiatus from fairgrounds now, second time out on this track, working very well. Lindsay Schultz, again, as I mentioned, is very good usually at fairgrounds. This one seems all on go, sitting all on go. Ryan, you have this horse in third. Obviously, not for you on the win end. However, should be the right price, and obviously should hopefully run well. I just like how a little bit lightly raced. However, those last two off of the break, it's been steadily improving, and there's no reason why this 3-year-old can't take another step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, clearly since switching into the Lindsay Schultz barn, this one has really stepped up with 2 of his best buyer figures since switching over with the 68 and 78. So I expect third start off the layoff to be this one's best. Typically, it's an angle that I do not play where a horse has not officially crossed the wire first. Has not crossed the wire first in a race. This horse is put up 2 back in the maiden special weight at Laurel. Typically, that's just a forever fade angle. There's a horse on the West Coast that I think is still trying to break his maiden. I forget the name, trained by Mark Glatt, but he just refuses to win. So Sandpipes, though, tough to not pick this one somewhere. Obviously, Jose Ortiz, we've mentioned, on fire to start this meet. The improvement on the buyer speed figure off the layoff as a young, lightly raced 3-year-old really speaks volumes. I don't think this one was meant for the Tapeta Turfway or the synthetic, whatever it is. Clearly does a little bit better on turf. I mean, I'm thinking the jockey upgrade again. You mentioned, no disrespect to Sanchez or Jara, but Jose Ortiz is in a world of his own. He's putting on a riding clinic out there. He's Flavian Pratt at Del Mar. He's Irad at Gulfstream right now. Sandpipes, I picked him third because, again, I think there's some better options to go. He's not going to be 9 to 2.
Yeah, no, I think he'll probably be, especially with Jose hopping on board, he'll be vying for the favoritism of this race. So again, completely fair. I think I would probably need at least 4 to 1 vertically wise, but as you mentioned, put up in a race, maybe not like to win. However, lightly raced, third off the bench for his true start to his 3-year-old year. I think this one just really all systems go here, and this will be the time to catch him, hopefully, before he comes back. If he wins here, comes back later in the meeting, will definitely be favored if Jose Ortiz stays aboard. You are going with number 6, Devil's Got a Cause. Again, a nice horse, 8 to 1, nice price. Dallas Stewart, someone mentioned in the chat who was as Paul Conlon. Again, of course, very astute viewer. Dallas Stewart is due, according to him, going to number 6 with everyone's favorite angle, the ultimate equipment change.
Yes, the ultimate equipment change coming in here off of that October start on October 10th. Got gelded a few days after that. Comes in here. I mean, look at those 2 turf tries, 3 and 4 back respectively. 75 and 79 buyer. basically some of the best that he's run outside of a couple other efforts here and there. His best effort coming at Fairgrounds. You'll notice at the bottom, Dallas Stewart, 0 for 34 going dirt to turf. So maybe that's not the greatest stat line. So what? Toss it out the window. That's not something I'm paying too much attention to. Look at when this horse was gelded and look at these works ever since. Dallas Stewart, not really known for working his horses, super fast, super strong. He's not like a Baffert who's going to, run him fast and get him into shape that way. He's going to kind of let him go and, take them how they want to be. How they want to run. And this one has a bullet 3 back, a bullet 5 back, and a best or a 4 out of 141 runners, 2 back at Fairgrounds. Comes in with a nice and light 49-2, 36 out of 126 on December 15th leading into this. This horse looks ready. This horse clearly likes the turf, as this one has had 2 of his better performances. Lost to Rebel Red 4 back, who was an excellent Cherie DeVoe runner. Second place in that one was Unit Economics, and then third place was Hunt Ball for Godolphin Bill Mott. I mean, that was up at Saratoga. Devil's Got a Cause has got a real shot here. $250,000 purchase, not that lightly raced, however, pretty lightly raced on turf, and is not facing the same type of class that even he faced in that allowance race. It's going to be pretty similar to that claim race he faced at Saratoga. And honestly, with a good reference to Funkel, the boss, with Funny Uncle, who he lost to, you're facing similar, maybe even lighter competition, because we know how tough Saratoga is over the summer. Comes in here in good order, and I expect a big showing from this one.
Yeah, and look, I might have completely overlooked this horse because a lot of things that Ryan just said definitely are perking my interest a little bit. Going to the time form here, Ryan, this is another one that this one says fast pace, so that might be the only thing against Devil's Got a Cause. However, has shown to be the ability to pass before, kind of sitting, the type of pocket trip per se. I think might be the best choice for Devil's Got a Cause is he's going to have a lot of horses bearing down from his outside trying to get the lead in this one. But Devil's Got a Cause, definitely worth a look.
I'm curious if Brian Hernandez is going to be able to, sit on the rail and make a rail skimming ride. I can't think of a horse that he's done that with in, the biggest race in America. So, I feel like we should be all right.
That's enough out of you. That's enough out of you. I don't need to relive that again, and no one in the chat does either. So, look at it, take you off the show for something like that. My Boy Tony is the horse to the outside. Luis Saez coming in to ride Eddie Keneally. This horse has been ultra consistent. I had to throw him in at least in third. However, the 10 gate is not the worst thing at Fairgrounds. There is a pretty long run up to the first turn. However, going to have the number 11 News at 9 definitely coming over in front. He doesn't necessarily like to be too far back either. He likes to be a little bit forwardly placed, which for me is a little bit of a knock just from a post position standpoint from the outside, especially with a speed horse just to his outside. However, blinkers on for this one. This one will definitely get a jump on other closers that are be coming into this hot pace. With the blinkers on should show a little bit more of an interest. However, 1 for 11, 5 seconds is kind of that angle again where we look at it. Maybe the horse just doesn't like to win, but definitely have to include exactas, trifectas, whatever you're playing there. So my boy Tony definitely, for me, has to be respected, although 7-2 might be a little bit light for me to take at least a win bet on a horse that's actually done a lot of running and probably his best running going farther than a mile. Did break his maiden at Indiana at a mile. However, that was at a maiden 32 claimer. And even though this is an allowance race at Fairgrounds, you're definitely facing a little bit stiffer competition here than you are there. So at least, willing to take a chance, at least underneath. However, he's been running long ever since that race and definitely has been facing good competition. Just where he won last at the mile might not have been the best running company. So respect, not play for me. I'm going 3-1-10. Ryan's going 1-6-3 in race number 3. And I want to bring up this
there we go.
This from Howard, just because we do have Pacific Horseplayer representation on the podcast. Breaking news just confirmed with Santa Anita. They'll be drawing 5 days out, ladies and gentlemen. The last track, right, to finally be drawing out
where the dirt meets the surf, brother.
Delmar did it for their fall winter meet, right?
just for their big days. I would like to just, I'd like to, just go ahead and just dunk on Howard here. I reported this to Howard, and he had to go confirm it. So, but we had been in talks about this, so I'm happy it's official, and that we can, say it publicly because, Santa Anita needs to do this. They have a 6-month race meet basically coming up. Obviously, it's split between, the Hollywood meet and whatever they call this one here, but this needed to happen. Regardless of us having Pacific Horseplayers on Wednesday and us having, a very limited amount of time to get the handicapping done. It's better for the sport. It's better for the gamblers. You see, we're doing fairgrounds right now for Saturday. Today's Wednesday, and we have morning lines. We have post visit.
Correct. Yes.
We're dreaming of that on the West Coast. So I'm happy that Santa Anita was able to get this done. All the props and all the credit to them for finally, getting with the times, if you will. So that's just, it's great news being a guy that loves to bet on the West Coast.
Baby steps.
Baby steps indeed.
We're getting there. Cheers to that, my friend. Anyway, let's get it moving here. Race number 4 starts the stakes races on Saturday. Again, it's a field of 6 going 6 furlongs for 2-year-olds only, with a very nice morning line favorite. And here, the number 4, Tough Catch, Luis Saez and Dallas Stewart at 8-5. Second choice, the number 6, Count the Brave for Jose Ortiz and Nacho Correas. The 4th at 3-1, and third choice, the number 5, Contrabandist, the Virginia bred. Charlie McMahon takes the mount at 7-2. And Ryan, we have pretty much the same, I kind of think you think the way wow, that was great English there. It's the 8.2%, man. We're kicking in, man. I'm kidding, but 4-6-5 for me, 6-4-3 for Ryan. Ryan, to you, I think it's kind of a 2-horse race, at least in my opinion, between Tough Catch and Count the Brave. I'll let you talk first, of course, about your top pick. Then we'll funnel into mine, the number 4. They're both going to be low prices. Going to have to, I think, if you're playing horizontally, Ryan, you're going to have to pick one or the other. But Count the Brave ran very well last time in a pretty tough allowance N1X, a starter allowance at Keeneland. Just didn't get the job done, however, ran very well.
Yeah, we're to start with Count the Brave here, and to actually start with my top pick. My top pick is the Elysian Space Dust IPA, being a nice 8.2%. However,
in the biz.
Number 6, Count the Brave. Yeah, I mean, I love this horse coming in here. Lost to Bostonian, a well-meant Wesley Ward horse out at Keeneland. Obviously, that's his stomping ground. And this horse ran a nice 70 buyer, I believe, to the inside of Bostonian, and just kind of kept fighting all the way down the lane there. This one gets first time Lasix, obviously shipping into the Anything Goes Fairgrounds racetrack. So Count the Brave from the outside, just had a nice comfortable trip, is going to be able to get Lasix for this effort. Speightster loves to sprint on dirt. Nacho Correas comes in. Jose on board again. We've talked enough about Jose. This runner has 2 really close finishes. The Restricted Maiden won by a nose and then lost by a head, which tells me one of 2 things. One, maybe further down the line, blinkers off might suit this one just to relax a little bit. He seems to just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the amount of competition he's faced. Lost to beat a next out winner in Morrill the first time out, and then lost to Bostonian, who again, well-met Wesley Ward horse in the second start. So maybe just, I don't know, maybe just needs to relax a little bit, and that might get his best effort out of him. I'm not a trainer. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Nacho Correas, who is a great trainer here. Yes. Jose Ortiz is going to sit a nice stalking trip from the outside. You see these time form figures colored in red. They were obviously going pretty fast. So fast or slow, this one's going to be forward. This one's going to sit the right trip, and Jose aboard. There's nobody else I like.
Yeah, I had this horse on top the whole time because I did love exactly that angle. Just that replay was, I have no idea how this horse just didn't go by. I mean, just had a perfect trip the whole way around. Obviously, Bostonian was like you said, a very well meant Wesley Ward horse. You said Wesley only, gears up, not only, but gears up his horses the most for these Keeneland meets. However, just didn't really have, got a perfect trip. Obviously, it was only a 7-horse race. Got a perfect trip just sitting behind the loose leader, Bostonian. Just didn't really punch through like I thought this horse was going to. And that might be a test to, hasn't had to pass horses before. There's a whole lightly raced horses, a whole ton of question marks. First time Lasix is a great angle, as you mentioned as well. Not the thing I carry most into my handicapping. However, if you do, you'll definitely love this one here. Working out super great. Like I said, I keep going back and forth, and maybe it will change. Obviously, follow me and Ryan on X. I post my opinions before each race card every single Saturday that I will bet myself. Probably will be this one and Gulfstream Park with their Pegasus preview day, of course, that Picks and Ponies is covering. But I ended up going with number 4, Tough Catch. I think Tough Catch has kind of had a really unfortunate campaign. This one is getting back to 6 furlongs. Tried to run 6.5 last time. Don't think it's necessarily what he wants to do. The Bowman Mill for this horse was very, very good. Just lost to another very, very well-meant horse for Wesley Ward in Long Neck Paula. Working that same type of stalking trip. Ran in the Hopeful, ran absolutely nowhere. Threw that one out at Keeneland. I think I bet this horse again come Keeneland. Then lost by a half length to Long Neck Paula. Now comes back into this spot. Just very well meant. I think the 8-5 and 3-1 is going to be a lot closer by post time than what it shows in the morning lines. I don't know if they're going to be like 8-5, 9-5, but they're going to be pretty. I think it's going to be like 2-1, 5-2, something along those lines. At least I think. They might even go off, both at 2-1 or something like that. Because as I mentioned before, I think these two are a little bit above the rest of the field. Working very well, as Ryan mentioned earlier, Dallas Stewart's not one of those that kind of, really gets his horses going in the morning. So to see back-to-back 48 and 3 at Fairgrounds is a very welcome sign to me. It's going to be the 4 and the 6 out near the lead, and whoever has the best on that day is going to get it done. Luis Saez hops aboard the 4, going to be aggressive, and I love that he's hopping on the 4 here. It's going to be a dogfight between the two, Ryan, and obviously one of us hopes one comes out on top. The other one hopes the other way around. Also, first-time Lasix for the number 4, Tough Catch.
Absolutely, yeah. This 4 was tough. I didn't really know what to make of this one. Obviously, had the debut effort that was the most successful, getting to the winner's circle. I want to say I bet him that day. I love Dallas Stewart up at Saratoga. And then just either changed the running style or has just been outrun early. I'm undecided on what that was. I'm with you. You toss the hopeful effort. That's going from a kiddie pool to like an Olympic pool in your second try. So toss that. Clearly got back to what this horse likes to do with 2 really good seconds. Keep It Easy is a decent horse. Long Neck Paula, you mentioned, good Wesley Ward horse. Actually a Wesley Ward filly because he loves to run those 2-year-old fillies against the boys. That's Wesley Ward's like go-to. The reason I went with the 6 over the 4 here is because you mentioned Bostonian was out on the lead and this horse never got by. Wesley Ward and Bob Baffert are pretty similar to me in terms of when their horses get an easy lead and when they come down the stretch and they look another horse in the eye, they're not getting past. If they're battling the entire way around, maybe. But if you give a Wesley Ward or a Baffert horse an easy lead and they look another horse in the eye, they dismiss them as quickly as Noah leaves a Starbucks drive-thru after getting a latte. So the 6 was just the easy choice for me. It's hard to make up ground on the Fairgrounds dirt course. That race coming out of Churchill, obviously longest stretch in the country. You can make up some ground. Talk about the 4 right now, Tough Catch. And then Gaffleone on board. He had some pace to close into. They went 44 and 4, 109 and change, or 109 flat, excuse me. So they clearly had some pace to close into. Keep It Easy won pretty easy that day. However, I'm sticking with the 6 as my top pick. And you mentioned at the preview of this race, you pretty much have to, pick one or the other. I'm picking the 6. All good if you pick the 4 because they're both very evenly matched. I just like how the 6's running style fits the overall profile of Fairgrounds dirt more than, a closer on dirt.
Yep. Look, I completely get it. Obviously, one of us, hopefully, knock on wood, one of us is going to be right. One of us is going to be wrong. But as we mentioned, Contrabandist, the horse I have in third is for Donegal Racing. for Dane Noel, who's a very, not a small barn down in Louisiana, just is coming from Delta Downs. Again, maybe just not the best competition down there. However, did run third in a listed stake down there in the mud. So one to pick up pieces late, although might just not be the quality of the top two. And real quick, Ryan, before we move on, just, like I said, quick 30 seconds, Dorotero, Bolt Doro place card. Place card was a very nice horse. Had, some progeny that were winners again, but first time out in a race like this is a pretty tough ask, although the horse is working very well.
Absolutely. Place card was third on debut, didn't win till I believe start 9 or 10. So not a whole lot of precocity, however, has produced some nice runners from, the sample size there. However, I just don't know what this field is really.
Yeah, right.
Other than the 6, I mean, the 4's got a lot of work to do turning for home. The 5, I typically like gun runners towards the end of their 3-year-old year, just because they've kind of proven at this point to me, they get better with age. Obviously, there's a few horses that come to mind with that. Breeders' Cup winner, Breeders' Cup Classic winner would be one of them. So, yeah, Doroteo. Maybe he surprises. We've seen these 2-year-olds. This is pretty late in the year, but we've seen these 2-year-olds kind of shock first time out. So I'm thinking there's a chance this one does something like that. Obviously, Jose Camejo not strong with his first time starters, 3% from 32. However, you never know. So count the Brave on top for me. Tough Catch is clearly the second choice based on proven figures, but number 3 is kind of the unknown. I don't like the 1, the 2, or the 5 in here, at least for my liking. So I'll take the 3, maybe a bit of a shot underneath.
That's 2 references, by the way, to the Kentucky Derby, if you're keeping track at home. And I'm going to keep drinking for that. But no, look, I completely get it. I don't like anyone else in this field. They said the number 5 is just one that's proven and can catch a little bit of a piece at the end there. The 3 is the unknown. So wouldn't be surprised if he came in third either, but I'm going 4-6-5. Ryan's going 6-4-3 in race number 4. Before we get into the last race of the early pick 5 here at Fairgrounds, which of course is another stakes race. If you're enjoying the content, please go down below the video player, hit the like button and hit subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. Again, the easiest and best way to help out our channel, as it is completely free to do. Ryan, let's move into race number 5, of course, which is the last race we'll be talking about tonight. And it is another stakes race, the Lateria Memorial Stakes, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Field of 7 draws in here with a pretty heavy morning line favorite. The number 1, Her Laugh, Axel Concepcion for Beckman Whitworth at 9-5. Second choice, the number 3, What a Moon, Jose Ortiz takes them out at 3-1. And third choice, the number 2, Sycamore Shoals for Edgar Morales and Brendan Walsh at 7-2. And you see, Ryan, we have the same horses, and none of them are the morning line favorite, which is something that, one, I love to see, because we're both throwing out the pretty heavy morning line favorite, not even on the win end, just at all. So that's something that talk about for sure. But you're going with the number 4, Simply Joking, the first time starter for Whitworth Beckman. So obviously, first time starters have a little bit of your eye so far this early sequence.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying this because I'm simply joking, but if you are including Her Laugh in this race after winning for me and for Howard last time out in the late sequence of the Churchill Downs pick 5, where neither of us hit, we both singled the same horse. So that was over as soon as Howard sent me that screenshot. But you can't play Her Laugh here. To talk about the favorite, who's going to be the favorite, Jamie Torres hops off. Why do you do that, first of all? Second, they flew last time out at Churchill Downs, and this horse only got up by a head. Yes, was up by half a length at the third point of call, about halfway down that stretch, but you can't play this horse back here at 9-5. This is an awful bet. I'm sorry. Maybe this horse wins. So be it. It's a complete toss for me. That race set up really well. Practical Joke, as we know, pretty good on debut with his debut 2-year-old runners, his debut runners in general. And that takes me to number 4, Simply Joking, where Jaime Torres does hop aboard, multiple time grade 1 winner this year. This horse has some excellent works leading into this race. 5 furlong drill coming in. Fifth best of 55 runners, has a bullet 3 back, 47 from the gate, has a nice easy 49 work, has some really sharp works just here and there throughout the work tab. Whit Beckman pops with these first-time starters all the time. He's a relatively conservative trainer. He doesn't do anything too aggressive, and he has a first-time starter in a stakes race. That's got to tell you this is later on in the year. This horse is clearly progressing the way he wants to see it. I know Jaime Torres is only 1 for 62, but he has 19 seconds and thirds so far, and eventually that's got to go the other way. Those photo finishes are going to go the other way, and I am taking that as, today's the day, or Saturday is the day for Simply Joking, and I am so serious when I say it. So I think the number 4 is going to really pose a big threat on top. There's nobody else in this field I'm in love with. I do want to mention the number 6 real quick, Black Ginger. Yep, that was my friend's nickname to me because of my freckles. So they like to poke some fun with me on that one. But to stick with Simply Joking, as we have a great sense of humor on this Bettin and Boozin show.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I think Whit Beckman can pop with these firsters. 15%, 456 ROI. 2-year-olds is a 295 ROI. I mean, you look at the dirt, you look at sprinters. We're big in the green with these ROIs with this trainer. So everything is pointing me towards Simply Joking in a race that is very wide open with no proven form and with no like A+ runners who are just dominant overall.
I agree. I mean, look, obviously I have her in third, so I think she's completely live. And I thought that Jaime Torres angle was actually really interesting. I went with the number 2, Sycamore Shoals. Brendan Walsh, who's had a great start to his fairground meet, as he usually does. Edgar Morales hops aboard as well, 25% so far in 12 starts. Obviously, if you do the math, like unlike the West Coast math, who said 11 plus 9 was 19, it is 20, in case you were wondering. But 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 12 is 25%. So I can't do that much math. Ran very well on debut. They actually dead heated for second in that race, just losing to Chatter, who's a very well-meant horse at Keeneland. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, Ramon Vasquez, 5-1 for John Ortiz coming second off. So yeah, definitely well-meant there. Brendan Walsh takes him now to Churchill. They go fast. They go pretty fast early. Gets up at third point at call down the stretch. Just fades off a little bit at 7. Now comes back to 6 in this spot. Should get a nice stalking trip. Everything's pointing to go on Sycamore Shoals for me. 7-2 is more than fine because, like as Brian mentioned, her laugh's going to be pretty heavily bet, at least in my opinion, in this race. So looks to sit a pretty similar trip to her laugh. Hopefully should get the better going first-time Lasix here for the number 2, Sycamore Shoals. Real quick, Ryan, before we move on, the last horse we have in there, the number 7, What a Moon. Horse came from Delta and won very emphatically. Ran huge that day, popping a 73 buyer, winning by 9.5, and has only been working well since coming back off that effort.
Absolutely. Real quick, note I forgot on the 4 and the 1 is something I like that Whit Beckman is doing is he's not running these 2 runners with Lasix. So similar to Anna Marie last year, who was an excellent horse for him that ran a lot of really good races at fairgrounds. He kept them off Lasix for the duration because he doesn't want to give them something that they're eventually going to have to get removed. I love that trainer angle just in general. It's not something that's really influencing me betting or not, but the fact that he knows that these horses are ones that he wants to train on to 3 and he thinks have the potential. Obviously, Practical Joke, I don't think is a Derby type sire, as I don't think his progeny want to get the 1.25 miles. I do know that he has big hopes for these as 3-year-olds, so I'm hoping that he keeps them off Lasix, and seeing that he did, that's certainly a vote of confidence. To go to the outside to the number 7, What a Moon. This one on debut won the way that you want to see a horse run, came out the way you want to see a horse come out of that effort.
Yep.
The romp, so to speak, or maybe not, because that was a pretty easy win, winning by 9.5 at Delta Downs. Comes out of that effort, 73 buyer. Obviously, the time pretty much reflects a pretty good effort all things considered. And then and it fires a bullet on December 13th. So clearly is still in good form, is holding that form. And this one was more than just a well-meant first-time starter. This one comes in holding that form. And, you know, Jade Gellner is not a very well-known trainer, at least to me. I'm not a guy that has really heard too much about him outside of Fairgrounds. Yeah, go ahead.
Not much fan of Delta Downs.
You know, on occasion, Jackson and I were.
I'm sure you do.
Jackson had an absolute lock at Delta Downs earlier today, so he bet that one. But, but yeah, you know, Jade comes in here and he's 1 for 14. He has 3 in the money in total, though. He's a 15% overall trainer. This horse is going to break right, and look who the jockey is. How many? Like, there is nothing in the stat line for Jose and Jade Gellner. Yet Jose takes the mount here. He's drawn to the outside. Everything kind of points to this horse firing a huge effort second time out. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, keep going.
I was just going to wrap up by saying this horse is going to be forward. This horse clearly, I mean, maybe not clearly, but has more in the tank, one would assume, with that open length win where he was never really asked the question. He pulled away in hand, never looked a danger, and also was not favored. And that says a lot to me out of Delta Downs. A horse that, you know, if he went off at 1-9, fine. Like, maybe that's just a horse that was well meant and a horse that the CAWs took full advantage of. But he went off at over 4-1, and now he gets to just come back in a pretty ambitiously placed spot in the stakes race with 2-year-olds. And I'm looking for him to show another good effort.
I say completely agree. Have him in second as well. Just a matter of can he put it together from that very impressive Delta Downs effort now to a stakes race at Fairgrounds. And one last stat, and I promise I didn't save this just to rain on your parade, Ryan. But if you with Beckman, you go to any stakes race. You can even do it just non-graded stakes. But if you do non-graded and graded stakes in the last 5 years, 2 for 50. 4% on the win end, and you go to just non-graded stakes if you wanted to go that route as well. 1 for 27. So again, just something to keep in mind.
So all you're telling me is that he's going to be 3 for 51 and 2 for 28.
All I'm telling you is that he's due. Basically, that's all I'm telling you. Exactly. No, I promise I didn't say that to rain on parade. However, it is something worth noting. I'm going 2-7-4. Ryan's going 4-7-2 to close out the early pick 5 at Fairgrounds on Saturday. Ryan, I'll let you go first. And ladies and gentlemen, we don't just do the early pick 5 around here. We do the whole card for you guys, and we'll give the best bets of the entire card. Ryan's got back-to-back horses later in the card to give you guys. Race number 7, the number 1 Built. And if I'm not stupid and remembering that correctly, that is the Catman himself at 7-2. And race 8, the number 8, Son of a Birch, fantastic name, 8-1 morning line. And obviously you could use that in a double. You could use that in many ways. Ryan, what did you take with your best bets?
Yeah, Son of a Birch, awesome name. First, I got why is no one not playing Built here? This was the horse that he tipped off to me and Jackson and everybody that he knew in his friend group. I mean, I love the guy, and Built won not for fun, but won pretty handily that day, and we all made a decent amount of money on him. So I don't know why he didn't just pick him back. Render Judgment, who he beat, last time out. That was on accident. Came back out to win his next race. This one comes in here out of a hard spun out of a Curlin mare, bred for the 2 turns, bred to love this. Catalano does not race them to debut a winner. This one took a massive step up in his second time out, in his second start. And now he gets to go the route of ground, which I think this horse ultimately wants to do. He looked a little flat late in the race. He just seemed to kind of fend off everybody that was in there. This one now gets 2 turns, gets the cozy 1 slot. Lannery is obviously going to stick a board here. How are you not? But this one is kind of unproven. You have the 2 Render Judgment who ran in the Jockey Club last time out and just kind of disappointed around 2 turns. You have Magnitude, who's going to be your favorite, Jose Ortiz, whatever. Won around 2 turns last time out, but had a pretty easy trip. They went 113 to 3/4. I mean, that's not
Honestly, I think the number 5 might be the favorite in that race. So I know you're going to talk about in a second, but another very nice horse as well.
Yes, the 5 Admiral Dennis, a horse that I believe the Bossman likes in Kentucky Derby future type looks. Obviously, yeah, Constitution out of Union Rags. You'd be silly to talk somebody off of that one. However, that's similar 2-turn breeding to Hardspun out of Curlin, and you're going to get a much, much better price on Built than you will on a Brad Cox horse, both of whom are trying these 2 turns for the first time. So give me Built, give me the longer price of the 2. I love everything this horse is made of. Wayne Catalano can pop at a price. It's easy as that.
And not to mention who Built lost to on debut. You mentioned not built to run on debut. Helps when you lose to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile favorite and nose dirt specialist himself, East Avenue. So makes a ton of sense. Obviously, Son of a Birch as well at 8-1 in race number 8, the Richard Sherman Memorial. If you want to learn more about that late pick 5 sequence, tune into Pacific Horseplayers last night. You can find it on the YouTube channel after you finish watching this show. Good theater is exactly what it is.
Good theater, Howard. Absolutely.
Hopefully, good luck, obviously, Ryan, with your best bets. I'm going 2 very easy ones. Race number 3, I'm going to do one in our sequence and one out of the sequence. Race number 3, the double, going American Hope, which is that Brad Cox Phil D'Amato. Used to be Phil D'Amato runner that we both like, and Sandpipes, the Lindsay Schultz runner for Jose Ortiz aboard. Pairing it, Brian mentioned it. You have to pick one or the other. I'm going with Tough Catch in that race. Hopefully, coming from that type of turf race, very wide open, into a pretty heavy, one of the heavy favorites. Hopefully, should get a pretty decent price. So, looking to capitalize on that horse there. And number 9, I'll win on the number 2 Kinetic, guys. Again, learn more about the sequence watching from yesterday. It's a Brad Cox runner coming out at allowance, a 1 1/8 allowance at Churchill, winning emphatically. Got a very nice trip, but I mean, that the Tenacious is basically Grandpa Race 4.0. Like I track Phantom in there, obviously not Grandpa, but this is a horse that I've never really been that big of a fan of. If I'm going to be completely honest, and he's going back to routing where I didn't like him at all. Routing, I thought he was going to be good going 1 turn. Did run well at Churchill last time, but going back to routing, I don't know if that's what the horse wants to do. Especially when not loose on the lead, which he's not going to be. Confidence game, another horse I've really never liked. Happy American, that's Grandpa. Velociter is probably the other one that I actually like, is a little bit younger. David Cohen hops aboard off of a horse that coming out of the Charlestown Classic. But where the hell has that horse been since the Charlestown Classic? And then you got Saudi Crown, who lost by 58 in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So I had Bo Cruz, who didn't even finish the last race. So there's a lot of things that are going against a lot of other horses. Kinetics very steadily improving every single start. Brad Cox, Godolphin, no Florent Giroux. Count me in 9-2. Probably we'll get 4-1, something 7-2, maybe anything above 7-2. I'm willing to take on Kinetic in a pretty tough race. However, I think he might be the one trending forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, I don't think I talked about Son of a Birch.
Go for it.
In the, what is that? The 8th race. I do love your pick in the 9th. I love Kinetic, and I'm going to play probably a straight pick 3 Built into Son of a Birch into Kinetic, because that Brad Cox angle, if you see a Brad Cox horse and they wait until he's a 3-year-old to run him, when that is clearly like, Brad Cox loves to, Godolphin as well. Those are connections that love to run a horse that win first time out, that look, flashy. Maybe not Godolphin, but definitely Brad Cox. You see, he had Axel Concepcion on first time aboard. Second time out, stretches him out to 2 turns, and then has won ever since and hasn't looked back. That's a horse that's still getting better, and a horse that's going to be the kind of probably a handicap threat if he comes out and runs the race that he should. But the race previous, in race number 8, Son of a Birch for Jamie Torres on board for Thomas Morley, the trainer. Temple City out of a Scat Daddy mare. This horse obviously loves the turf, has done really well sprinting, never worse than second in 3 tries sprinting at fairgrounds, and 8-1 on the morning line. Jamie Torres, as I've mentioned, is only 1 for 62, but 19 other in second and third. I think this one has a really good shot. coming in since been off since November 9th, which is not too bad. Comes in losing at Aqueduct last time out, but this one should square up nicely for him. There's a decent amount of pace in here. He's going to be coming from the back and should just be able to save a little bit of ground and get home in time. So that's my second best bet. But number one, Built is certainly my strongest opinion.
Like I said, I love to hear and I love the weighting of opinions because people love to hear, who's your number one horse that day. For me, it's Kinetic, and you said you love Kinetic, and for you, it's Built. Again, trying to build your bankroll based on one opinion is a lot easier than building your bankroll on 3 lukewarm opinions. So absolutely love Ryan. Good luck. I'm sure we'll talk again before Saturday, but to everyone else out there who I will not be talking to until next Wednesday, good luck this weekend, guys. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show and enjoyed crossover week. Again, just a little bit of fun we're having, especially near the end of the year where the racing might not be, the best, right? Where you're leading up to Pegasus, but, in the interim might not be the best racing in terms of stakes. Have a little bit of fun on the podcast, bring in people, again, that have been brought on the show as a guest before, and now being a full-time co-host on the HHH Racing podcast. Happy to take him in under my wing again, where we can have a good and fun show talking about Fairgrounds. So, Ryan, thanks so much for joining in, man. Greatly appreciate it. And again, to everyone out there, cheers to everyone else. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. If you haven't already, please go down below the video player, hit like, hit subscribe until next Wednesday. But tune in tomorrow, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Picks and Ponies covering Pegasus Preview Day with Howard and 2 other special co-hosts in Paul and Chuckles Freeman, the man out here from Bettin and Boozin. And for your co-hosts, Ryan Anderson and the host Kyle Roscoe, this has been your wow, I just completely messed up my intro. This has been episode 100 outro. Dude, give me a drink. Outro episode 111 of Bettin and Boozin here in the HHH Racing Podcast. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.